Welcome to China Truths. In this episode, we will bring you the following story. Review of 33 most corrupt CCP officials in 2024. Now, let's dive into the details. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Review of 33 most corrupt CCP officials in 2024. Today we will make a brief review of 33 most corrupt CCP officials tried in 2024. The following is description of the cases in order of the amount of money they embezzled. On December 17, according to the Supreme Court's criminal ruling and execution order, Li Jianping, the former secretary of the Party Working Committee of the Inner Mongolia Ho-Hot Economic and Technological Development Zone, was executed by the Inner Mongolia Xing'an League Intermediate Court. Li Jianping was involved in corruption involving more than $411 million. On May 28, Tian Hui, the former general manager of China Huarong International Holdings Company Limited, was sentenced to death by the Tianjin Second Intermediate Court, and the court also ordered to confiscate all his personal property. Tian Hui was accused of taking about $152 million in bribes. On October 29, Caixin reported that according to insiders, Zhang Changgong, the former party secretary of Guangdong Huaxing Bank, accepted bribes of approximately $41 million and misappropriated more than $82 million of public funds, totaling more than $123 million. On March 22, He Zhihua, former deputy director of the State Tobacco Monopoly Administration, appeared in court at the Dalian Intermediate Court for trial. He Zhihua was accused of taking $129 million in bribes. On October 29, Sun Jigang, former secretary of the Guizhou Provincial Party Committee, was sentenced to death by the Tianjin No. 2 Intermediate People's Court, with a 2-year reprieve, and all personal property was confiscated. After the death sentence was reduced to life, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of commutation or parole. Sun Jigang was accused of taking about $111 million in bribes. On October 14, Wang Dawei, former vice governor of Liaoning Province and director of the Provincial Public Security Department, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Court of Xiangyang City, Hubei Province, with a 2-year suspended execution, and all personal property was confiscated. After the death penalty was reduced to life, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of commutation or parole. Wang Dawei was accused of taking $76 million in bribes. On February 5, Tian Huiyu, the former president of China Merchants Bank, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Court of Changde City, Hunan Province, with a 2-year suspended sentence, and all personal property was confiscated. Tian Huiyu was charged with 5 crimes including bribery, abuse of power by state-owned company personnel, trading on undisclosed information, insider trading, and leaking inside information. Among them, bribes of about $29 million were taken, illegal profits of more than $40 million were made by using undisclosed information, insider trading and leaking of inside information with illegal profits of more than $1 million, abuse of power causing particularly heavy losses to national interests. On August 13, Li Ziyong, former vice chairman of the Guizhou Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, was sentenced to death by the Chongqing Fifth Intermediate Court, with a 2-year suspended sentence, and all personal property was confiscated. Li Ziyong was accused of accepting more than $59 million in bribes and abusing his power, causing ecological damage and losses of more than $12 million. On October 10, Fanny Fei, former deputy governor of the Central Bank of China, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Court of Huanggang City, Hubei Province, with a 2-year suspension of execution, and all personal property was confiscated. After the suspension of death was reduced to life, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of commutation or parole. Fanny Fei was accused of taking $53 million in bribes. On January 24, Gu Bo, deputy general manager of China Tobacco Yunnan Industrial Company, appeared in court at the Intermediate Court of Jian City, Jiangxi Province. Gu Bo was accused of accepting a bribe of $48 million. On March 22, Zhang Shijuan, former deputy head of the People's Congress of Qingdao City, Shandong Province, appeared in court at the Intermediate Court of Yantai City, Shandong Province. Zhang Shijuan was accused of taking $43 million in bribes. On November 26, Liu Lianga, the former chairman of Bank of China, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Court of Jinan City, Shandong Province, with a 2-year suspension of execution, and all personal property was confiscated. Liu Lianga was accused of accepting bribes of $17 million and illegally granting loans of more than $455 million, causing a principal loss of more than $26 million. On November 12, Chen Jixing, former deputy head of the Standing Committee of the Guangdong Provincial People's Congress, was sentenced to death by the Guilin Intermediate Court in Guangxi, with a 2-year suspended sentence, and all personal property was confiscated. Chen Jixing was accused of taking $38 million in bribes and using his influence to take $158,000 in bribes. On December 12, Han Yong, the former chairman of the Shaanxi Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, appeared in court at the Intermediate Court of Nanning, Guangxi for trial. Han Yong was accused of taking $36 million in bribes. On October 31, Liu Handong, former deputy head of the Jiangsu Provincial People's Congress, appeared in court at the Intermediate Court of Shenyang City, Hubei Province. Liu Handong was accused of abusing his power, causing heavy losses to public property, the interests of the country and the people, the circumstances being particularly serious, illegal reselling of land use rights, the circumstances being particularly serious, and accepting bribes of $34 million. On October 12, Jiang Jia, former vice chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference Tibet Autonomous Region, was sentenced to death by the Tianjin No. 1 Intermediate Court with a 2-year suspended sentence and all personal property confiscated. Jiang Jia was accused of taking more than $31 million in bribes. On November 1, Luo Yulin, a former deputy ministerial official of the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission of the State Council, appeared in court at the Intermediate Court of Qingdao City, Shandong Province. Luo Yulin was accused of leaking insider trading information and enabling others to engage in related trading activities from 2013 to 2014. The circumstances were particularly serious and he accepted $30 million in bribes. On May 24, Chao Guangjing, the former vice governor of Hubei Province, was sentenced to life imprisonment and all personal property was confiscated, and fined $1.6 million by the Shuzhou Intermediate Court of Jiangsu Province. Chao Guangjing was accused of accepting bribes of more than $30 million and leaking inside information, enabling others to gain more than $1.4 million. On October 25, Yin Meigan, former deputy head of the Jiangxi Provincial People's Congress, appeared in court at the Intermediate Court of Saming City, Fujian Province. Yin Meigan was accused of taking $28 million in bribes. On December 19, Wu Wei, the former secretary of the Liuzhou Municipal Party Committee in Guangxi Province, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Law of Beihai City, Guangxi, with a 2-year suspension of execution, and all personal property was confiscated. Wu Wei was accused of abusing his power, causing heavy losses and negative effect, accepting $25 million in bribes. On May 9, Sun Yuanliang, former vice chairman of the Liaoning Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Court of Qingda City, Hebei Province, with a 2-year suspended sentence and all personal property confiscated. Sun Yuanliang was accused of soliciting and accepting bribes of $22 million, and using his influence to accept bribes of $3.8 million. The total involved in the case exceeded $25 million. On November 14, Zhang Hongli, the former vice president of the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, appeared in court at the Hangzhou Intermediate Court in Zhejiang Province. Zhang Hongli was accused of taking $24 million in bribes. On July 10, the Liaoning Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection and Supervision reported that Chao Jun, the former party branch secretary of Kongxingtai Community in Shoshan Town, Liaoyang County, Liaoning Province, misappropriated $12 million of collective funds and embezzled $11 million of collective funds, totaling more than $23 million. On September 25, Gu Yanhua, the former director of the Qinghai Provincial Grain Bureau, was sentenced to life imprisonment and all personal property confiscated by the Xining Intermediate Court of Qinghai Province. Gu Yanhua was charged with corruption, bribery, and misappropriation of $22 million in public funds. On August 28, Dong Yunhu, the former head of the Shanghai Municipal People's Congress, was sentenced to life imprisonment and confiscation of all personal property by the Hefei Intermediate Court of Anhui Province. Dong Yunhu was accused of taking $20 million in bribes. On December 17, Xiong Shui, the former deputy mayor of Chongqing, was sentenced to death by the Intermediate Court of Zhengzhou City, Hunan Province, with a 2-year suspended sentence, and all personal property was confiscated. Xiong Shui was accused of taking more than $20 million in bribes. On June 5, Sun Shutao, former vice chairman of the Shandong Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, was sentenced to life imprisonment and confiscation of all personal property by the Intermediate Court of Datong City, Shaanxi Province. Sun Shutao was accused of taking $18 million in bribes. On December 13, Li Tai, the former head coach of the Chinese men's football team, was sentenced to 20 years in prison by the Xianing Intermediate Court of Hubei Province. Li Tai was accused of accepting bribes of more than $10.6 million and paying bribes of more than $5.7 million, totaling more than $16 million involved. On May 7, Li Guohua, the former general manager of China Unicom Group, was sentenced to 16 years in prison by the Qingdao Intermediate Court. Li Guohua was accused of accepting bribes of more than $9 million, abusing his power and causing losses of more than $6.8 million of state-owned assets, involving a total of $16 million. On February 2, Gao Weidong, the former chairman of Mutai Group, was sentenced to life imprisonment and confiscation of all personal property by the Lipanshui Intermediate Court in Guizhou Province. Gao Weidong was accused of taking more than $15 million in bribes. On March 26, Zhou Jianquan, former vice chairman of the Guizhou Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, was sentenced to life imprisonment and all personal property confiscated by the Chongqing No. 1 Intermediate Court. Zhou Jianquan was accused of taking $14.8 million in bribes. On July 16, Li Dong, the former deputy general manager of the National Energy Investment Group, was sentenced to life imprisonment and confiscation of all personal property by the Yichuan Intermediate Court of Jiangxi Province. Li Dong was accused of taking $14.8 million in bribes. On November 19, Zhu Congjiu, former vice chairman of the Zhejiang Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, was sentenced to life imprisonment and all personal property confiscated by the Ganzhou Intermediate Court of Jiangxi Province. Zhu Congjiu was accused of taking more than $14 million in bribes. A number of senior generals in the military, such as Wei Fenghe and Li Shangfu, two-term members of the Central Military Commission, State Councilor, and Defense Minister, have been transferred to military courts for trial in 2024. However, the CCP was worried that the announcement of the amounts of money involved would cause the military to rebel, so it deliberately concealed it. Also, the above-mentioned amounts involved were determined by the courts. They are not necessarily the amounts in reality. They are often reduced for the sake of so-called political stability. Xi Jinping became the leader of the CCP at the 18th National Party Congress in November 2012. Since January 2013, Xi has launched an anti-corruption campaign. It has now been 12 years, and more tigers are being targeted. The CCP generally refers to senior officials at or above the deputy provincial and ministerial levels and other central management cadres as tigers. In 2021, Xi targeted 25 tigers. In 2022, this number increased to 33. In 2023, this number soared to 47. By December 16, 2024, this number jumped to 56. 2024 was the year with the largest number of corrupt officials tried for embezzling at least 100 million yuan or $13.7 million since the 18th National Party Congress. Before the 20th National Party Congress in October 2022, We made a summary of the billion-dollar corrupt officials investigated after she came to power. According to our preliminary statistics at that time, 112 corrupt officials involving 100 million yuan each were investigated. In other words, the average is a little more than 11 a year. This year, as many as 33 officials involving billions of dollars in total have been put on trial. The cancer of corruption in the CCP has reached its final stages and cannot be cured. Why has the regime become more corrupt after 12 years of anti-corruption campaign? Long before she came to power, the CCP was already the most corrupt in the world. In early 1989, a student movement against corruption and to demand for democracy and freedom broke out in China. For the CCP, this was a great opportunity to address the root causes of corruption. However, the then leader of the CCP, Deng Xiaoping, believed that the student movement was an anti-party and anti-socialist turmoil and mobilized 200,000 troops into Beijing to suppress the student protest on June 4 on Tiananmen Square. After the June 4 incident, Deng Xiaoping personally strangled the CCP's political system reform and only emphasized economic reform. What is economic reform without political system reform? It is the combination of the shortcomings of the planned economy and the shortcomings of the market economy, the combination of power and money, and the epidemic of corruption. Under the leadership of seriously corrupt elements, the officialdom of the CCP has quickly turned into a hypermarket for transactions in power, money, and fornications. CCP officials compete to make a fortune quietly and mess around with mistresses. Corruption in the officialdom is like a flood that bursts a dike, pouring down thousands of miles, almost to the point where no official is not corrupt. Xi Jinping's 12-year anti-corruption campaign has failed to make any substantive reforms to the political system. On the contrary, it has retreated towards the totalitarianism of Mao Zedong's period during the Cultural Revolution. It is not the market that plays a decisive role in resource allocations, but power. Power is omnipresent in all areas where money is made. Not only is this impossible to curb corruption, on the contrary, it can only exacerbate it. In addition, Xi's anti-corruption campaign is not really anti-corruption, but selective anti-corruption, mainly to eliminate political opponents. In this way, no matter what harsh words Xi says or what anti-corruption measures he introduces, they will have little effect on corrupt officials. Judging from the fact that the number of corrupt officials involving at least 100 million yuan put on trial in 2024 is the largest since the 18th National Party Congress, the CCP's so-called self-revolution is ineffective in eradicating corruption. It is nothing more than an excuse for those in power to eliminate opponents.